clickbait and content creation last week. And again, this Windows 11 story is a little bit like this too, like it sort of exploded out onto the internet and was, all these various bits and pieces were being discussed about it. But just moving on to our broader topic today of why, misinformation, fake news, etc. is so appealing is because of this, is that it just has an ability to, seep into your feeds, into your consciousness or whatever, and you're seeing, a legitimate post against an illegitimate post, and it all kind of looks the same. And there's that sowing of doubt as it sort of festers around, and you don't really know what you're looking at half the time. I have to admit that when I saw the Windows 11 thing the first time, I was like, is that actually a real thing? What's this about or whatever? But then, I read a bit more into it, and people were running it and all that sort of stuff. And and then that started its own conspiracy theories. Someone leaked it out of Microsoft to throw everyone off the scent, because when they do the announcement next week, it's actually going to be a totally different product. I was seeing stories around that, or that Microsoft deliberately leaked it out there to get people sort of focused on it ahead of time. They're doing an announcement to do that, but anyway, it's just interesting, the thinking, and they're usually good examples of what we're talking about. That it's like there's this sort of the brains of everyone are going straight down to what's the hidden meaning behind this, that, or the other thing, and what's driving that story when it could just be what's on the surface.
Absolutely, and this is exactly as you've just said. You find all of this on the internet because it's such a perfect delivery system of information, be it false or accurate. And all information on the internet is pretty much presented as equal, as long as it fits into a nice post and looks professional. You'll probably believe it, whatever it is. And so you can have something about where to go and get your vaccination right next to a post about Bill Gates will take over the world as soon as you've got your vaccination. And it's up to you to try and work out which post is real and which post isn't.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, really what's driving a lot of these conspiracy marketing and misinformation campaigns, all of which have a different purpose online. But they all play on the one thing, which is the human mind does not like uncertainty. And as soon as we can't see a pattern, or as soon as we can't get an answer for something that is concerning us or worrying us, then we will jump on anything that looks like it gives us an answer. And that's how fake news and very often advertising both work.
Absolutely. In that vein, I wanted to touch on the Q Into the Storm documentary. I've been working my way through episodes of that. Fascinating documentary, so I highly recommend you watch it. If nothing else, it just gives you an interesting insight into the whole QAnon phenomenon. And obviously there's with any documentary, there's a point of view. So I think this point of view, from what I can see in terms of the structure of the documentary, as to who's Q, who's really behind Q, what's all of this about, and why are people so into it. And I think that feeds into what you're saying about looking for patterns, looking for certainty, I think in the documentary too, they referred to the way Q does his drops of information a little bit like astrology. You read into it what you think is correct, and then you think, oh, this actually happened because, we're looking for patterns in things.
That's right. And it's always backward looking to give you the evidence without any proof forwards.
Exactly. And it's just and you can see how people were sucked into it. But what was one of the examples that really stuck out to me was they had a bit about the 2018 midterm elections, and Q was pumping everyone up to that it was going to be a red wave, and all the Republicans were going to just take over the House, etc. And then they had a couple of cameras on some rusted on QAnon supporters who were watching the results come in, and they were announcing that the Democrats were going to take the House, and they were taking it in a landslide, and they immediately flipped to thinking, oh no, that's what what they want them to think, lull them into a false sense of security, so that when 2020 comes around, they'll be primed to lose. And it was like that twisting of, it's either right, or if it's not right, then there's a grander plan to validate it in the end at some later point, which it's almost like the perfect conspiracy theory in a way. And whoever is behind it obviously knows this and is stoking it perfectly, because objectively, if you look at any of it, it's just ridiculous. Yet it seems to have pulled in so many people.
So this is where I think the internet offers new hope for malicious actors. You know, in the real world, someone still has to front up at a rally and talk and whip everyone into a frenzy. So you can at least eyeball the person who's behind it or the people who are behind it. Online, you could have no interest in the outcome of QAnon, but you could still incite through this channel just for your own amusement. You could be a fervent believer in the cause. You might not be. Your reasons for doing it could run from anything from just causing disruption, malicious disruption in another state or part of the world, right through to selling various things that those people might want on the website. Who knows? And there's no way to prove it online. There's no way to really validate it, and that is the basis of an excellent conspiracy.
Absolutely. One of the fascinating sort of storylines that I wasn't aware of that the documentary covered was about how there might have been a real Q to begin with, and then somehow he or she was, the identity was usurped by somebody else, and then that person, whoever that was, kicked it into high gear, and yet, and apparently there was an obvious change in tone in the text that was dropped, etc. Yet people still went along with it, and if anything, it grew stronger.
That's right. And it obscures the origins, it obscures the truth. And I think the interesting thing is now, and I'm not trying to discredit the producers of this doco, I'm just using this as an example, that potentially you could then go and make a documentary that makes everyone believe another thing again and further obscures the truth behind QAnon. But you know, I'm sure there's a money trail somewhere, and that's usually the answer as to what's going on.
And they do follow the money. There was that whole argument in
one of the
very
good.
Where it said, "What's the most basic thing you do in an investigation? Follow the money." The one criticism that I would have of it is that I think in and of itself is it's going down its own rabbit hole. It's kind of strange that it's kind of employing similar kind of techniques, I guess, as what Q's doing, because it's a bit, I guess, an analogy. If anyone's watched the movie JFK, where basically Oliver Stone just about blamed everyone for the assassination of JFK. It's a little bit like that. I mean, he is focusing on certain actors that he keeps pursuing, but there's a definite sort of question mark over who, it could be any one of these people, or maybe it's all of them, or maybe it's just a few of them, or maybe it's just that one, or whatever. And it's like it's doing its own conspiracy theories about Q itself, which is really bizarre, like as an experience in terms of watching it.
Yeah, it makes you wonder then what's really going on with that documentary.
Well, if anything else, it's it's interesting entertainment. It's an interesting point of view. It uses the documentary format, as a legitimate, platform. Whether it is or not remains to be seen. But again, maybe to wrap back around to what we were beginning to discuss around this, is that that this piece doesn't look any different to a news article that's been really well researched and is factually correct, and is also on the same lines as a Q. Sort of Q drop. It's all the same in terms of all of these things have been elevated to the same sort of level on a platform on the internet, which people then can then just pick and choose what they want to pursue in terms of what the truth is.
Yeah, I know. It's when you really think about it, it makes your brain hurt a bit.
It certainly does, and it just it makes you wonder where to from here, because if there's no baseline of what the truth is, then basically it's just a spiral downward into it can't be good, the end outcome.
Well, this is right, and I mean this is just another piece of information that's on the internet, real, conspiracy or other, and it's sitting alongside of lots of other different pieces of information. And I think that's the thing that's really starting to eat away at our society, is the fact that we're really struggling to get any clarity around any issue without you having to invest a lot of time and effort to find the truth. So whether it's a human rights issue, whether it's a climate issue, whether it's a QAnon issue, the amount of time you have to invest now to really find out more about the topic and what's behind it, and how, if it's a good cause, how you can be involved and how you can make a difference. It's very, very tough. And I think that's, what certainly the Western world now is struggling to deal with.
And unfortunately, the vast majority of people just don't have the time or can't be bothered to invest that sort of time to do that.
Well, the problem is that if the only place you're getting information is the internet, I don't think you've got a hope of doing it.
So the object lesson of all of this is maybe just cut your internet off for a little while and, I don't know, just go and breathe some fresh air for a couple of hours or something.
I can't wait till they hit the button.
A nice EMP ought to do it.